Hi, my name is Malaika, and welcome to my first video. I've seen that a lot of my peers and even adults tend to shy away from jobs in tech because they don't actually know what it's like, but they just think it's sitting in front of a computer all day, when in reality that's not true. So I wanted to do a series of interviews with some inspiring women that I know who work in tech just to demystify what it's like to do that. So I thought I'd start with Puja Ramani. She's worked at lots of companies whose products we use today, such as Facebook and Quora. And she also happens to be my aunt, and she's really cool. So let's jump into the interview. So, hi.
Hi, Malaika.
So excited
Excited
you're
to.
here. Yeah, it's fun to talk to you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, yeah. So my name's Pooja. Let's see. I'm Malaika's aunt. She's the one of the best nieces I could hope for. Um,
Well,
a
I'm
little
your
bit,
only niece.
a little. That's true. That is true. But if there were more, you'd still be the best. Um, let's see. Yeah. So Malaika asked me to do this, and kind of she was interested in learning a little bit more about my career path. So I've been in tech for about 15 years or so, working in the Bay Area. Yeah, so really excited to share what I've learned, and hopefully it's useful to all of you.
So, do you want to tell us about your current role?
Yeah, so I'm at the moment actually looking for my next opportunity. But I can tell you a little bit about like my career path so
Yeah,
far, if that's helpful. Yeah.
that's
So I
helpful.
started in tech about, yeah, like I said, about 15 years ago. I actually started as an engineer. So I have a computer science undergrad, and I worked at a company called Intuit. So Intuit makes tax software and like small business software. That was a really fun place to start because Intuit is one of those companies that's super customer focused. And so, when you're an engineer, you don't realize that like it's really important to know your customers super well and understand what their pain points are so you build the right product for them. So I worked there for 4 years, and that was like a really great learning experience. And then at Intuit, I was an engineer at first, and then I moved to this role called product management. So engineering and product management kind of go hand in hand. Product managers typically like spend more time with customers and understand what their pain points are, and how they can help them, and then they work collaboratively with engineers to build it. So I was at Intuit for 4 years, and then I went to get my MBA at Harvard Business School. I wanted to learn a little bit more about like just business in general. I felt like, like I didn't have a lot of perspective like beyond just, coding and building things. And so I really wanted to
Yeah.
understand like what makes a decent business? Like how do you actually like, run a company? So it was really good to like get that perspective. And actually, it also opened my eyes up to careers beyond tech. As Malaika knows, like everybody in our family is in tech, right? My brother, my husband, sister-in-law. So, like, just getting out of the tech bubble for a little bit was nice, to like learn about other career paths. But then after my MBA, I realized like I really do want to do tech, and so I moved back to the Bay Area, and then I worked at Facebook for a few years, and then I worked at two startups. So I can talk about any of those experiences. But that's sort of like my background. So most recently, I was at Quora, where I was leading all of marketing for that company. And yeah, now I'm trying to figure out what I want to do next. I like working with small companies, so trying
Mhm.
to see what's out there.
That's quite cool. Do you want to talk about some really impactful projects that you might have done at any of your jobs?
Yeah, so one of the things that's really exciting about tech as an industry is it's always changing and it's so fast moving. So when I think about my career, and I mean, I haven't even been working that long, right? Like only 15 years, hopefully
Well, that's
many
quite
more
a
years,
long time.
but hopefully many more years to come. Like at Intuit, I was actually working on like like old school software. Like you guys might be too young to remember like when software used to actually like ship on like CDs, right? And like so it was really important to like make sure your code was perfect, because once got on the CD, it was much more difficult to like make any
To
updates to
change
it.
it.
Yeah, make changes. I mean, all of that has changed now. I mean, with web
Yeah.
development, everything's like super easy. So I was just, I think it's just funny to think about like how quickly things have changed, right, in this world. I think in terms of like really impactful, I mean, there's so many. I was really fortunate to be part of Facebook when Facebook wasn't, as big as
Yeah.
it is today. I remember creating my Facebook account in 2003 when I was not too much older than you, Like I was in college. I was like, what is this thing? I guess it's like an app to like find your friends, and to see that company grow into like an app that everybody uses is really, really cool. And then Quora is a really interesting product too. I don't know if you are familiar with it, but
Yeah, I
it's
am. I don't have an
yeah,
account, but it often shows up in Google searches.
yeah, yeah. So it's the mission of the company is to share and grow the world's knowledge, right?
Hmm.
So a lot of knowledge is actually like in people's heads, right?
Yeah.
Experiences they've had. In fact, what we're doing right now is sharing knowledge, right? So how
Yeah.
to get that knowledge out of like people's heads and put it in a place that can be accessed easily. So
Hmm.
that's what Quora is trying to do. Yeah, and I was at the company for 3.5 years, and we've been able to grow quite rapidly. Now trying to figure out like how do we monetize the product. But I think what's really exciting about tech is there's so many interesting opportunities, right? So many new
Yeah.
problems to solve. And I think right now
And
we're in a really weird world with like COVID and everybody working from home. But thankfully, there's technology that helps us get through it.
yeah, eventually it'll expand to like almost all the sectors in the world,
Exactly.
which is really
Yeah.
exciting,
Yeah.
you
Like
know.
remote learning. I mean, I'm sure you're
Yeah.
impacted by good technology every day,
Mhm.
right? Like all the kids have been at home for like 6 months. Would have been impossible without Zoom and Meet and everything else. Yeah.
Can we discuss diversity in tech and like why it's important to have a diverse range of people working at these companies?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think it's obviously super important to have diversity. It helps companies make better decisions. Like the consumers that we build products for, right, are diverse, right? They're not
Yeah.
all like one size fits all. Women, people of color, they need to be represented, right, in your
Yeah.
decision making. And I think that's been one of the challenges with tech, which companies are trying to change. But historically, tech has attracted maybe more boys than girls, and then
Yeah.
even within that, like minorities are not as well represented. And I think that's definitely something that needs to change. There's a lot of focus on it, so hopefully that'll happen. But
Hmm.
I think we're still far from perfect there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Uh, do you have any advice for your like people like me who might be interested in a job like yours in tech, but
Yeah.
don't actually know where to start? Some opportunities and things we can
Yeah,
seek out.
totally. I mean, I was reflecting, when I was your age, I also had no idea really like what I wanted to do. In fact, I feel like you have yeah, you're even earlier in your journey and kind of reflecting on what you want to do, which is great. When
Yeah.
I was 17, I had literally no idea what I wanted to do, but my brother was a big influence, right? Your dad. And so I remember he asked me to pick a major or do something that was difficult, right? Because it's always important to pick something difficult because that's when you grow, right? And then
Yeah.
also pick a industry or a sector that's actually growing.
Hmm.
Because even within engineering, there's lots of different kinds of engineering. But
Yeah.
like you do mechanical or electrical engineering or hardware. But when I was picking like what I wanted to do, software was really booming at the time, and it was still really a pretty young industry. So yeah, so my advice would be like to pick something that's rapidly growing and where there's a lot of innovation, right? So right now, obviously, there's a lot of work happening in like artificial intelligence and machine learning, automation. I think that's a data, right? I think being really good at
Yeah.
data, large amounts of data, and being able to make sense of it is a
Hmm.
skill set that's going to be
That's
really,
something I'm interested in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, and then you could also think about like, there's all these like social challenges we still have, right? Like with healthcare and, um, remote learning, like what kind of technologies do you think can help with that, right? And that
Hmm.
could be really inspiring too.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's something, I think in general, picking like a sector or a field that is growing and innovating rapidly will always accelerate your career and frankly keep it fun, right?
Yeah.
Because if you go work for like a company that like makes soup or whatever, like there's only so many
Soup
versions of
eaters
soup.
out there.
come up with, right? So it might get a little boring. Yeah.
Who inspires you as like a career idol, I guess, or in general?
Oh, that's a good one. Hmm.
You can
I
take
think
your
a lot
time.
of entrepreneurs in general are really inspiring because,
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to like start a company, right? If you
Hmm.
think about
From nothing.
from nothing, right? Because it takes a lot of energy and you have to like, it's a roller coaster, right? The high highs
Yeah.
and really low lows. So I think entrepreneurs in general, like I have a lot of respect for them because it takes a lot. And then, but without the entrepreneurs, we wouldn't have all of these like products we rely on,
Yeah.
right?
We
I
wouldn't
really
we
admire.
wouldn't have anything.
Yeah, I mean, I really admire like Mark Zuckerberg because I mean, I met him when he was, like kind of like an awkward like person like my age,
That's
and I
really
was like,
cool.
wow, like how have you built this amazing company? And then he's taken and continued to be able to grow that, which is pretty
Hmm.
amazing. And he's only my age, maybe like a little bit younger too. Um, and then I think Bill Gates is really inspiring, right? Right now,
Yeah.
there's a lack of, I think, leadership right now in the world in our ability to like tackle this coronavirus. And
Yeah.
I feel like Bill Gates, I have faith in him to hopefully help, like, come up with a vaccine soon. But Bill
Yeah.
Gates is one of those people that's just, if you follow his career, it's pretty amazing because he was such a great technologist, but then he's equally adept at really understanding, like, medicine and like solving really hard problems,
He
right?
also
Like,
talks really well, and he's quite
yeah,
knowledgeable. Yeah.
he's very knowledgeable and he can go really deep on like very different
Yeah.
subjects. He's not like shallow, right, in his learning,
Really
which is
cool.
an
Yeah.
important skill to learn. Yeah.
Um, and finally, is there anything you would want to tell yourself when you were my age?
Yeah, I think I think stay curious, right? And yeah, I think there can be a lot of pressure when you're like, trying to figure out like what do I go study in college? But really nothing is unchangeable, right? Like I think career
Yeah.
paths are fluid. The most important thing to keep in mind is that you're learning and that you're growing and excited about what you're working on. But I think a lot of times when you're younger, like every decision can seem a little bit like, oh my gosh, like it's like a make or break,
Yeah.
decision. But there's always, I mean, I know so many people who like, like majored in like history and like are now like really successful in tech,
Hmm.
right? So I think there's many paths. Like your career path is never like a straight line, right? It's
Yeah.
probably like a zigzag and like curves around a little
Up
bit.
and down.
Yeah, up and down. Um, what other advice? I would say, yeah, I would say, challenge yourself to do something difficult, I think a
Hmm.
lot of girls, especially, there's a lot of like stereotypes out there, right? Like
Yeah.
girls aren't good at math. I don't think that's true at all, of course.
Yeah,
And
it's not.
so I think it's important to like not be constrained by like what the world expects of you or what you think you're capable of. So I think definitely like push yourself and challenge yourself. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I started college at UC San Diego computer science, I was actually one of the only, I think, kids who joined the program who had like never coded before, because
Hmm.
like 15 years ago, I didn't even like have my own computer to like really code like before I went to
Yeah.
college. So when I went to college, I was like probably the only one in my class who hadn't already been programming, and that was really intimidating because I
Yeah.
was like, whoa, like all these kids like are way smarter. They've like already built their own apps and games, but I was able to catch up,
Yeah, you
with
made it.
pretty quickly. And yeah, I think that it's really important to not be intimidated by like somebody else's path. And I think for young people these days, it does seem that like more and more like kids are like, even younger and like more successful, right? And that can put
Yeah.
a lot of pressure on folks. But I think, yeah, pick one or two things that, you're going to be really good at and work harder than, anybody else, and don't give up on yourself.
Thanks. That was really nice. So I think that's it. Thanks for being here. Really
Of
appreciate it.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my
Um,
pleasure. And
yeah.
yeah, and I think, yeah, stay curious, I think life is like super fun, and it's okay if you're doing something or you're like, hey, I'm really not into this anymore. That's fine,
Yeah.
You don't have to pick something for the next 30 days or 30 years or whatever. Careers are long. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that was fun talking to you. Have a nice day
You
and
too.
stay safe.
Yes, you too,
Yeah,
Malaika. This is really fun. Thank you for
yeah,
having. Okay,
yeah.
bye.
Bye. Thank you.